Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be going over Jupiter in the 8th house in Synastry. So this video is for you if your Jupiter is in somebody else's 8th house in their natal chart, or maybe their Jupiter is in your 8th house in your natal chart, or if you're a cross watcher, welcome as well. So in terms of Synastry, basically what Synastry is in our natal charts, it's going to tell us the energy of two natal charts when we place them together. So it's interesting, I've heard different things for Synastry. Sometimes they say the house person feels it more. Sometimes they say the planet person feels it more. Personally, the way that I see it is, in this particular case specifically, the 8th house deals with anything to do with sex, death, rebirth, joint finances, taxes, and the occult. It also deals with the whole concept of power and control, death and rebirth, basically the transformation of the self. So in this case, the 8th house is definitely going to be energetically pulling the Jupiter person toward them. That's kind of usually how these dynamics start. The Jupiter individual is going to feel very attracted to the 8th house person. They might not necessarily know why. They kind of feel like they're being pulled energetically to this person. They might describe it as a magnetic connection, like they don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the first time they're experiencing this. Because the thing is also with Synastry, you all, it's very important to also look at what's going on in each person's individual natal chart. So with 8th house Synastry, I know a lot of people talk about, let's say, the intense aspects of it, or like the whole karmic aspect of it. Yes, that is there, but sometimes if you are an 8th house person yourself, or you are a Plutonian, or you're a Scorpio person, for example, well, in that particular case, these energies are going to be very comfortable for you, or familiar, or you're going to be looking maybe consciously or unconsciously for these types of dynamics because you're looking for that depth, you're looking for that intensity. You want to have this type of dynamic with the other person where you guys connect on all levels, mind, body, spirit. You guys are able to talk about all sorts of topics, go deep, talk about even esoteric topics and topics about the occult and even astrology, things of this sort. So it depends really on the individual natal charts as well. And of course, with 8th house Synastry, yes, you're going to have the tumultuous situations where it is intense and maybe a lot of shadow energy comes to the surface, but you also are going to have the divine version of this. So we'll be going over all these types of different scenarios in this video today. So also it's important to look at what Jupiter means as well. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Jupiter is all about the higher mind, the higher learning. It's usually the teacher as well, sometimes even the spiritual teacher. The Jupiter energy usually likes to go off, learn something, come back and teach that particular thing. That Jupiter energy ruled by Sagittarius used to be ruled by Pisces, but always wants to know the meaning of life, the meaning of things. What is the purpose? What is my purpose? What is the purpose of life overall? So very much this energy of seeking the depths of life in a little bit of a different way than the 8th house. So the 8th house is looking for secrets and shadow things, but then Jupiter is looking to expand the soul, learn about life, learn about all of these types of belief systems that do exist down here. It's going to be the philosopher energy, the freedom energy, sometimes travel as well, sometimes foreign lands with the Jupiter energy as well. And a lot of the time with Jupiter, what I say is if you're not able to travel, is people from abroad who come to you as well. So regardless, you are learning about different types of people and their experiences on this earth plane, and really starting to put the pieces together to become that philosopher is really what that is. You're a philosopher at heart, but also you go off on this quest. That's really like Jupiter energy. Goes off on a quest to learn something, usually comes back and teaches. Sometimes it could be the traditional route of learning, or sometimes it's going to be through experience. That is Jupiter in a nutshell. So when we have Jupiter going into the 8th house, this is really interesting because Jupiter, the way that I see it at least, is like Jupiter expands basically whatever area that it is in. But the thing is with Jupiter's expansion, it could be positive because yes, it is that positive planet of joy and abundance and positivity and the positive outlook on life. Like absolutely could be this. But sometimes Jupiter can also expand in the shadow energy as well, because Jupiter can also go into hedonism, is really what it is, when it really pushes the boundaries over the edge. So it's really interesting to see Jupiter going into the 8th house, because the way that I see it at least is it's either going to be positively expanding that 8th house energy where it's like the two people are really talking about all of these topics that I just mentioned, really talking about the depths of life and the philosophies and what does this mean and what does that mean and what's your belief system, what's this belief system, and you know, what did you learn, like these types of things. Like absolutely it could go into this energy of just like talking about even esoteric topics, mysticism, theology, like the occult, like all these things. So absolutely this energy can manifest in this way, but at the same time we also have the shadow expansion. So it's like, again, you know, the 8th house person is pulling the Jupiter person in. So it depends, again, how evolved are these two people, because maybe the 8th house person has certain shadow traits, for example, that they don't necessarily know are there, that they maybe haven't acknowledged, maybe they have buried deep within them, and now Jupiter comes through and like blows everything up to the surface, brings a lot of these shadow energies to the surface. It could be this. Sometimes if you're energetically involved with a person or just like energetically enmeshed, you're spending a lot of time with them, you know, it could be hard to decipher whose energy is whose in the situation. Maybe the 8th house person could feel overly exposed, for example. Maybe the Jupiter energy can really go into that teaching energy, that mentorship energy, where the 8th house person feels like it's too much for them, for example. Or maybe because the Jupiter energy could be someone that is very positive and has such a positive outlook on life, the 8th house person in a situation could feel like that is also too much for them, because that 8th house energy is the brooding energy. It's the hidden energy. It's also sometimes the deepest and most intimate parts of ourselves, where it's like the Jupiter energy can kind of be like, okay, well, let's go on an adventure, or let's do this, or like, it's okay, forget about that, like, let's go do this other thing. So it depends what else is going on in the natal charts, what else is going on in the synastry, how evolved are the two people, all of these things in this situation. But again, it depends how these two people are going to handle these energies, because again, Jupiter could expand in a very positive sense. Even if we look at the 8th house in terms of money and other people's money, the Jupiter going into the 8th house, this could be, let's say, a very good business dynamic, for example. Let's say they are two business partners, or even if we, let's say, look at marriage as a business as well, maybe these two are going to accumulate a lot of abundance and wealth together, for example, because Jupiter is expanding that 8th house in the positive sense. So it depends really to see what is going on with these two individuals. But at the same time, like, let's say this is the only 8th house placement that's taking place between the two individuals. Maybe they're not Plutonian or Scorpionic or like 8th house individuals on their own, and it's like maybe they're a little bit more in the lighthearted energies. This could be a little bit too much, let's say, for both people to handle energetically, because again, the 8th house is going to want to go into the depths of life, into the shadows, into the hidden aspects, all these things, and Jupiter might just want to have fun, and they just might want to explore and go on an adventure. That could potentially last for maybe a shorter period of time. Maybe in the long term, there could be like a frustration energy with the two people where they don't necessarily see eye to eye, and they could get frustrated with one another, with like the whole concept of Jupiter's optimism and then the brooding energy of the 8th house. So absolutely could be this, but at the same time, if we look at it from the whole power and control dynamic between the two people, well, in this situation, let's say the 8th house person feels like as soon as the Jupiter person entered into their life, the 8th house person might feel more abundant now, for example. Maybe they feel more abundant, let's say, in all realms of their life. Maybe again, these two have started to activate abundance in terms of money and monetary gain and all these wonderful things. Well, let's say the 8th house person, for example, might want to now keep the Jupiter person around to continuously have, let's say, this abundance coming through. They could maybe engage in some sort of power and control types of dynamics or tactics to try to keep this person around. So there could be this push-pull energy between the two people as well, where it's like they're trying to control maybe one another. Because the thing is, at the same time, again, the energy can become very enmeshed. So it's like maybe one person starts it, maybe the other person is feeling it, and then maybe the other person is reciprocating, and it's like there could be maybe this power struggle energetically taking place between these two people, where it's like, because the 8th house deals with the shadows, and it deals with, let's say, manipulation and control, and it deals with possessiveness and fear of abandonment and fear of losing the other person. Well, in that case, maybe the 8th house person could fear, let's say, losing the Jupiter person, or vice versa. I will say it could happen vice versa as well, because the energy could get enmeshed in this way, where it's like maybe the Jupiter person finally feels like their abundance has been activated finally as soon as they came into contact with the 8th house person as well. It could be something of this sort too. So it's like with these 8th house dynamics, you're always going to leave transformed, is basically what that is. It usually does tend to be a breakdown of the ego in these dynamics in one way, shape, or form. And the thing is, we look at ego and we think it might be this huge thing that is being broken down. But anytime you go through, let's say, a change in belief system, or, you know, something that you thought was one way and now is another way, like you go through a breakdown of the ego in this way as well. It doesn't always necessarily have to be a huge breakdown of the ego, although absolutely could be, because again, Jupiter can be that ego, is really what that is. There could be a lot of ego and confidence connected to Jupiter as well in this case. And if we really go into the shadows of the 8th house, and when they are really in their lower versions, the 8th house person could be trying to purposefully break down the Jupiter person's ego, or let's say being rude to them, or trigger warning. These dynamics could turn out, let's say, into some sort of abusive dynamic as well, because it can be power and control and domination and all these things. So again, what I will say is it depends. How evolved are the two people? Are they willing to work on themselves? Are they willing to evolve on their own individually? Because sometimes you have someone, let's say, in a dynamic or a relationship that gets triggered by another person, and that person is not willing to look at themselves. That's usually what happens when there is a lot of ego taking place within a person, because again, the ego is kind of like that safety energy around us that we kind of create this like shell of like who we think we are. It's not actually who we are. So what tends to happen is, like, if this person has, let's say, a huge ego and it's very fragile, and like, let's say the 8th house person in this case comes through and maybe challenges that in the sense where it's like, it could even be unconscious. For example, like, let's say the 8th house person isn't even doing anything. Like, yes, you have the toxic version of this, but let's say it's just the 8th house person being who they are, and like that could be triggering, let's say, the Jupiter person or their belief systems, for example, in this case. Or again, the energy could be interchangeable, I will say that much. Let's say one of the individuals in a situation, their ego is being really threatened and they're not willing to do the work, and again, it's that safety energy that they've created for themselves. They could very much project onto the other person and basically say they're the ones to blame, and a lot of the time this is where like scapegoating comes in and all these types of things. So it's like, if you're in a situation like that, probably best to look for help or resources to leave the situation, or seeing how can you exit the situation. If you catch this early on within the other person, where it's like a lot of this projection energy is taking place, probably best to not engage with them or not entertain this dynamic, because it will be a lot of just like them blaming you, and it could really go into a shadow type of dynamic in this sense as well. So that's a shadow version of this dynamic. But in the divine version, if we look at it from the positive sense, both people are evolved, or at least they're willing to work on themselves and work through maybe certain shadow traits and maybe compromise on some things. This could be a very beautiful dynamic. Absolutely. It could be very abundant. It could be very intimate. It could be very close. It could be very much like finally the two people kind of feel seen, maybe in their own way. So it could go into this version of the energy as well. So it always depends. It is a plane of duality at the end of the day. But this is the overall idea with Jupiter going into the 8th house in terms of synastry. So with all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I do hope you guys enjoyed my video on Jupiter in the 8th house synastry. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.